Well, we are really starting to get into some warmer weather, and to me that absolutely screams night fishing. I absolutely love night fishing. I've done a lot of this from the bank as well as from a boat. And I think that there's a few things that if you apply them at night, it can really help you to catch a lot more fish. And we're gonna get into that in this video. Now, before we get into it, guys, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. For the month of June 2024, I am running a package deal. So you can actually get a USA made sun shirt. I have a lot of colors back in stock, as well as a hat and a pair of sun gloves, all for $84. It's over $22 off of what it would normally cost. So I'm gonna leave a link down below in the description. It is the best way to help support this channel. All right, let's talk about night fishing for bass. This is something that it kind of brings me back to just being a teenager and fishing so much at night in ponds that were not only my parents' pond that was in their backyard, but just ponds all over the place. Like I snuck into so many ponds, golf course ponds, probably shouldn't even say that, over the years, and just caught so many bass, and it was an absolute blast. Now, something that I find that is really kind of interesting, and I don't exactly remember the article. I know that it was an article I read. I can't remember if it was in a Bassmaster or what, but it was years ago. But the gist of the article was that there are certain bass that will bite at night, especially during the summer and warmer weather months, that won't bite throughout the rest of the year. Like there's a whole population of fish that will only feed at night. So when you are actually fishing at night, you are fishing for bass that might only bite during that time. And they might be some of the biggest of the big bass. And so if you guys know what that article is, please let me know down below in the comments, because I'd love to read it again. I just remember it so vividly when I read it, and that was kind of the gist of it. Now, let's get into a few tips on when it comes to actually fishing at night. A couple of things that you should know. Now, the first thing is you can get away with fishing a lot of moving baits at night. And this is actually something that I suggest doing. Fishing baits like spinner baits and top waters and chatter baits. This is something that I highly recommend doing at night because the bass are typically feeding fairly well. You don't have to go out there and cast and drag things around a lot. Can you catch bass doing it that way? Yes, 100%. You can throw drop shots and big worms, and those are great baits. But I often, when I went fishing at night over the years, I always kind of stick to a lot of moving baits. And baits that do not work during the daytime will actually work during the night. Baits like I just talked about, a spinner bait, for example. There are times throughout the summer where, you know, I just will not pick up a spinner bait a lot, except for in really like certain conditions, you know, up north for smallmouth or in river systems. But at night, it's a totally different ball game. At night, you want a lot of vibration. You want those fish to hone in on that bait, you know, when it's obviously dark, when their sight is limited. And so a spinner bait can really be a really good bait to use. Another great bait, one that I have probably used the most at night, especially in shallow water, is a horny toad style frog bait. To me, this is a great bait because it comes through anything. At night, obviously your vision is limited. So if you are fishing from the bank, you know, I like to use straight braided line and be able to cast this thing and know, you know, if I overshoot it and it lands in a tree, or if it lands on the bank on the other side, whatever it may be, I can pretty much just pull it out of wherever without getting it hung up. That's why I really like using that horny toad at night. Plus, something that I've learned to do is that, you know, is you really want to listen. At night, you know, you tend to have calmer conditions. So you can go out there, you cast that bait, you can reel it, you know, it's slowly making its thing across the surface, making noise across the surface, and then you just wait to hear that blow up. Now, what I've learned with that is that when you have a blow up, don't just set the hook, because with a horny toad style bait, those bass are gonna come, they're gonna grab it, and they will swim away with it. And they will actually like eat that, but they will have that bait in their mouth for a long, long time. So make sure you feel the weight of that fish before you set the hook. Now, something that I wanna tell you when it comes to moving baits that you really should be careful about is treble hooked baits. You know, baits like jerk baits and crank baits can work really, really well at night, again, because these are moving baits, you know, top waters that have multiple trebles on it. But I just want to advise you to be safe, because you are fishing at night where you can't see that well. And if you're using a treble hooked bait, just think of how many times people have got hooks in their hands during the daytime when they can see. Now, basically close your eyes and try to lip a fish at night, or what it's like at night. You just got to be really careful. So be careful with those treble hooks. I don't want to get guys in the comments being like, Tyler, I went and used a jerkbait at night and got 8 hooks in my hand. That wouldn't be good. We don't want that. So using moving lures, definitely do that. It can be really, really good. Now, another thing that I want to talk to you about is concentrate on a little bit shallower water. You know, a lot of fish I have found over the years will move into shallow waters to feed, specifically at night. And I know this because my dad back in the day bought me this giant spotlight. I don't know how many like lumens it was, because I just haven't had it for a while. But this thing, I mean, you could shine it, you could literally spotlight up. We used to shine like at clouds. This thing was so bright. And I would go around my pond at night all the time, and I would just shine it in the water, and I would be blown away at nights at just how many bass had moved up shallow to feed. You know, you would be going, you know, you'd go around that same pond during the day and the water was crystal clear. You wouldn't hardly see a bass. You go around at night, there's a ton of fish up shallow. So I like to concentrate a lot of my time fishing shallow during the night. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying you can't catch fish off the bank, but what I am saying is you actually might want to concentrate on shallower offshore cover at night as well. You know, there's a lake near me that I fished a lot at night off of a boat. And I have found that the areas where the bass tend to bite well are like shallow structure areas. So instead of fishing a point that extends way out, I might fish shallower on that point. Or maybe you have a hump in your lake that's really good during the day, but the fish kind of linger in the deeper part of that hump. Maybe there's a saddle they sit. They might be right smack dab on top of the hump in the middle of the night. So again, I like to focus a little bit shallower. I feel like a lot of fish are moving up, they're feeding at night, and it's a lot of fun. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is lights. Having some sort of lights is really important at night, but there's a few key things that I want to talk about. Now, if you are fishing from the bank, you know, you can buy those little headlamp style lights. Those are really nice. You can also kind of grab those lights that just clip on the bill of your hat. Those are the ones that I actually prefer. But if you are fishing from a boat, something that I think is, I don't want to say it's a mistake, but something that I have found to not really be the greatest thing are the lights that are kind of actually pre-made for a lot of boats. A lot of boats, you know, bass boats will have those strip lights that are actually kind of on the inside of the gunnel. They will be on the inside of the gunnel where the gunnel kind of meets the carpet, and that's where you see a lot of guys with lights. If I'm being 100% honest with you, those lights suck when you are night fishing, unless you catch a fish or you're rigging something up. They provide a little bit of light, but what it does is it takes away for you to be actually able to see like the cover that is around you in the water, because those lights kind of shine up in your eyes, and so like you can't really see past them. So if you're fishing at night from a boat, I don't suggest having those lights on unless you catch a fish and you want a little bit of lighting then. I would suggest not having lights on at all, because it allows your eyes to kind of adjust to the natural moon lighting, and you'll be able to see a little bit around you. Or have lights that are kind of on the outside of your boat, like on the underside of your rub rail would be a great place that kind of shine into the water this way. Because if they're shining up into your light, you can't see crap, and they attract a ton of bugs. But if they're shining kind of down into the water, that does help things. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, you might like my most recent one I did over on BassFishingHQ, where I talked about all your best bank fishing lures. So I'm gonna leave that linked right here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out Fin Fishing, and I will see you tomorrow.